A rhetoric situation is an act of speaking or writing effectively. Rhetoric is also a situation that lacks a meaningful understanding. An example of rhetoric is someone talking about a serious problem, but making it sound like it is not a problem. When someone asks a rhetorical question, he necessarily does not need an answer for the question asked, but bases the discussion on an occasion to talk about a particular topic. The writer exemplifies this through a rhetorical question. The writer hints that an individual would never say, "I've smoked cigarettes for a long time, and I don't have lung cancer." Therefore, there's no link between smoking cigarettes and lung cancer. In addition, the writer further questions the necessity of such blemished perceptions concerning media violence. The writer does not need an answer to the question but tries to engage listeners in his argument. Among other factors, rhetoric is useful in the sense that the truth prevails over the opposite. Ethos, logos, and pathos each have a dissimilar connotation. Ethos is an appeal to ethics. Ethos is more about trying to persuade or convince listeners of the credibility of a particular subject or discussion. Ethos mostly evolves around a speaker's intelligence and knowledge about a particular topic. The speaker should be able to understand more about the topic discussed. An example of ethos from the article is when Jim Carrey, who is a star of a new superhero film, distances himself from the picture after the Sandy Hook massacre. Jim Carrey later states that, "In all good conscience, I cannot support." The movie contains extensive and graphically violent scenes. Jim Carrey shows some ethics by stating his displeasure with the movie. He later distances himself because of the graphically violent scenes. Logos is an appeal to logic. Logos revolves majorly around the credibility of a speaker's argument. It is more about the speaker proving the authenticity of his argument. The speaker should be able to prove if the argument is true or prove otherwise. In the article, an example of logos is given when the writer states that smoking cigarettes and lung cancer are two different situations. The writer bases his arguments on that an individual had smoked cigarettes for a long time but was never diagnosed with lung cancer. The writer introduces logic by arguing that not everyone who smokes cigarettes acquires lung cancer. The credibility of the writer is evident because an individual introduced in the article confesses not contracting cancer despite smoking cigarettes for quite a long time. Logos can diminish certain emotions. Emotions correlate with agitated distress. Pathos is an appeal to emotions. Pity, as introduced in the text, is exceptionally important. Pathos majorly revolves around the emotional state of the audience. It entails using emotions as supplementing the persuasion of a speaker. The writer indicates an example of pathos by introducing media violence. In addition, the writer states that even if violent media conclusively cause real-life violence, a society may still decide that they are not willing to regulate violent content and in return stop violence. In the article, the writer claimed that stopping violence and embracing peace is a societal right. Even so, the author notes that before making any decision, evidence should be provided. The writer also notes that individuals in a society should strive to identify risk factors for violence. In addition, they should determine how they interact, those particularly affected by such factors, and what recommendations fronted to reduce modifiable risk factors. This diminishes violence among individuals in society and further embraces peace amongst people. This also encourages goodwill and unity among individuals living together. The writer intentionally averts issues such as heart complications, AIDS, cancer, amongst other calamities facing society. Society members are also encouraged to change factors interrelated with a negative consequence. Understanding ethos, logos, and pathos helps students to become familiar with hidden messages in written texts and articles. A student having an understanding of ethos, logos, and pathos can distinguish between the three and understand more about each. By using the three appeals, students tend to formulate strong points when doing their assignments or even using these techniques in their arguments. In conclusion, the writer presents the article effectively. This is evident as the writer affirms the relationship between actual violent behavior and media violence. Media violence fans get a glimpse of what their comrades experience through airing and letting rival camps. In the form of revenge, comrades fight back their rivals and in return encourage more violence. The writer also poses that excessive smoking of tobacco products causes lung cancer, but not everyone who smokes tobacco contracts the disease. You can find this and many other essay samples on our website studycorgi.com.